And we are back for Thursday Night Football. Once again, we have $1 million up top. In this video, we're going to break down the showdown slate with the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. Welcome, guys. My name is DK, and I cover content for daily fantasy sports as well as player prop sites. The sponsor of this video is Parlay Play. They are a player prop site. They do have NFL props. They also have MLB, WNBA, esports, basically every sport you can think of. You can win up to 75x your money here on Parlay Play. And they already have a fair amount of props posted for week 2, a good amount of props already for the Thursday night game. So if you guys are interested in signing up, you can use the link down below for a $100 deposit match bonus. Or you can use the code DKDFS. But if you guys do sign up with my code, hit me up on Twitter and I'll get you a free month of my Patreon player prop package. Yeah, excited to be working with Parlay Play. If you guys are looking for more content for DFS or for player prop stuff, you can always check out my Patreon linked down below. Had a good week 1 for myself. We kind of recapped everything in my week 2 main slate video, so check that out if you guys are interested. But quickly going over my showdown lineup from Monday night was a solid night. Went to Garrett Wilson captain with Allen, Diggs, Dalvin Cook, Zerline, and Hardy. 3x money, nothing crazy, but nice to get a W on the board. Hit on Jets money line, hit on Tutu Atwell, all receiving yards. So like I said, it was a good, very profitable week 1 for me, even though I missed in the main slate because of Lamar Jackson. All right, so let's take a look at the odds here for this game, and then we can kind of get into player by player breakdown. So let's take a look. Money line currently, Eagles are about minus 300. If you take a look at the spread for Minnesota and Philadelphia, we got about a 7-point spread the Eagles are favored by, 6.5 on DraftKings, and I do actually like Eagles to cover here, 6.5. So I'll most likely be placing this on DraftKings. And what you guys are looking at here too, it's the Odds Jam Sportsbook screen where it gives you, if you wanted to bet on the game, it gives you the best odds, which book offers the best odds. So right now it's currently DraftKings minus 6.5. If you take a look at the total points for, I believe it's 48, 49. About a 49 over under. So there are projected to be a fair amount of points scored in this game. Also on this other screen, I have the fantasy optimizer here. If you guys play on Prize Picks or Underdog or Parlay Play, right? They give you the percent chance of a prop to hit. So right now up here you have the taco for Justin Jefferson, but a couple of props that the optimizer is liking is Dallas Goedert over 4 receptions and Justin Jefferson over 7 receptions. I do like that Goedert play. The Eagles came out, Nick Sirianni came out and said that they want to give Goedert the ball more. If you guys are interested in signing up for Odds Jam, you can use the code DKDFS for 25% off your first month. Link in the description below. Okay, so let's get into the player-by-player breakdown, and we'll start off with Minnesota. So at the top, you have Justin Jefferson, 12.4K. I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time here. You guys know he's going to be a good play. He's going to be popular. Massive ceiling. 150 yards last game on 12 targets. Clear go-to guy. This is a game Minnesota should be playing from behind as well. The Eagles could be without their number 2 corner, or keep an eye on that. But either way, I think Jefferson's a great play if you can afford him with a massive ceiling. And here, I probably should, hold on, give me one sec. I was going to bring up, I had it up on this screen and then I close it out, the snap counts and data and all that good stuff. So I wanted to talk about a couple things. I'm going to do that as we keep going. Kirk Cousins is 9.2K. He's fine. Obviously not really mobile at all. So you're going to really be relying on him through the air. Now, if you're into narratives, Kirk Cousins usually does struggle in primetime games. I'm not really a narrative guy. I think that's a very fish mindset, is a narrative mindset when talking DFS or player props, right? I'll just tell you guys straight up, that is, you do not want to think like that. You do not want to buy into narratives. But he has historically been pretty bad. I'm not going to put much emphasis into it, though, with DFS or if I'm taking props. I'm really not. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, I think, is a pretty safe play. If you're playing cash games, you probably do play Kirk Cousins. just because the relatively high floor that quarterbacks do provide. Where are the Eagles? Sorry, I'm talking out loud right now, so I'm trying to bring up both these teams. Okay. All right, now I got everything up on my end. Cool. All right, Alexander Mattison, 7.6K. So Vikings could be without 2 starters on the offensive line, so not great for Mattison. What is good, though, is the workload for Alexander Mattison. We saw week 1, he played 47 of the 64 snaps. Ty Chandler only played 11 of the 64. That was it. So Mattison was basically like a true bell cow back. Now, he didn't do a lot with his touches, right? 11 carries, 34 yards, 3 catches, and 4 targets for 10 yards. But if he's going to continue to play like close to the entire game and he's involved in the passing game, I'm going to have interest in Mattison. Now, the O-line does scare me a little bit. I do think this Eagles defense is solid, but I think Mattison, since DraftKings is full point PPR and he's very involved in the passing game, does provide a relatively high floor. Plus, again, no real competition right now for running back touches. So Mattison, I think, is a nice buy low candidate here for the Showdown slate. I think a lot of people will look at that week 1 performance and just cross him off. They're going to say, oh, only got 34 yards in the ground and 10 yards to the air. But again, there was not much competition for touches. So Madison's the clear RB1 here for Minnesota. Even though there's some questions the O-line, I think his pass catching ability makes him a pretty solid option here at that price point. Hawkinson is 6.8K, had 8 catches on 9 targets, only 35 yards, but he's very involved. I think you could argue he's their second best pass catcher on this team, and he played a good chunk of the game. 48 of the 64 snaps, ran 37 routes. So, I think Hawkinson's pretty safe play in the mid-range. Here's my take on the other wide receivers from Minnesota. You got Addison, who I think a lot of people will flock to, and then you got KJ Osborne at 5K. Now, I do like the ceiling on Addison. I think he's a very talented wide receiver playing in the slot. However, I think the snaps are a little bit disappointing week 1. Only 36 of the 64 snaps playing out of the slot. He was productive. He did catch that long touchdown, but I think actually I would prefer KJ Osborne to Addison. I think Addison's a little bit more talented if we're just looking at the comparing the 2 wide receivers. But it's opportunity thing for KJ Osborne, who played 58 of the 64 snaps, almost 100% of the snaps, was targeted 6 times as well. So when you have Osborne at 5K, who's going to play close to 100% of the snaps, versus Addison at 6'4", who's going to play maybe about half the game, I'm going to give the edge to Osborne. And it'll be interesting to see where the ownership gap is between those two. Is Addison going to be a lot more popular because of the week 1 performance? My guess is probably yes. And we see this all the time. People overreact to one game, and they just look at the stats. They just look at the results, right? They look at the outcome and they say if a play was good or not based on that. And we talked about that in my week 2 video, how Breece Hall was an absolutely horrific play. Even though he got there for people, he was an awful play, played about 20% of the snaps, had a complete outlier performance. And if you replay that game 100 times, that would definitely by far be Breece Hall's best performance in the limited snaps that he saw, right? So back to these receivers, I actually give the edge to Osborne over Addison. It'll be interesting to see. Ownership projections are not out yet. It's Tuesday. I'm making this video Tuesday night. But ownership will also play a part in this. My guess is you'll probably see Addison a lot more popular in low stakes and Osborne more popular by the high stakes players. Greg Joseph's 3.8. It's like I'm not gonna have any real strong takes in these kickers. They're safe plays. You can play them in tournaments. Again, I played a kicker in tournaments last night. They're probably not going to kill you. They don't really have a massive ceiling, but yeah, they're pretty safe value plays. Definitely cashing them options. You can highly consider them for GPPs as well. I'm not really on the Vikings D. I would much rather play the Eagles D. Vikings D, I'm just not really that confident in. I think the Eagles are going to come out on offense and be much more productive this week. So I'm not really interested in the Vikings D at 3.2. Now, can any defense get a pick 6? Yes, it's possible. Any defense can get like a punt return touchdown or just random defensive touchdown. But I'm not going to be looking to the Vikings D for Thursday. Ty Chandler's 1.2K. I actually do think he's an okay punt play. He's the RB2. He's probably not going to get a ton of work. If you look at the stats last week, he had 11 total snaps out there on 7 passing plays. He is a decent pass catcher. If he gets 1 to 2 catches, that might be enough at this price point. So he's fine. But again, was not super involved in week 1. And then you got Josh Oliver here at $800. He had 3 catches and 3 targets. That is somewhat appealing. And the snaps are not bad on him. He played 30 to 64 snaps, ran 13 routes. The snaps were good, but the routes not amazing, right? Only 13 routes. However, again, if you get 1 or 2 catches, that might be enough at this price point. So Oliver, definitely viable as well. And then you have the fullback, CJ Ham. I have to mention him. He played 22 to 64 snaps, ran 11 routes. He's $400. He did have 2 catches and 3 targets. Like, he is a decent pass catcher for a fullback. So he is playable in my opinion. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to mention? The third string tight end, Johnny Mundt, played 5 snaps, ran 2 routes. There was not even another receiver that played outside of Jefferson, Osborne, and Addison. You did not see a 4th wide receiver play. So yeah, that's basically it for Minnesota. Let's move on to Philadelphia. So this Philadelphia team is pretty interesting. Again, I think they're in for a nice bounce back here on offense. Jalen Hurts, 11-4. I absolutely love him here. Good matchup against Minnesota. Is mobile. Again, I'm not putting too much emphasis into that week 1 performance. Almost all the top quarterbacks struggled. Like, it just is what it is. Much better spot here at home going against Minnesota. Mobile, like I said, I really like Jalen Hurts at the top. He's your very clear cash game captain, too, if you're playing cash games. And again, with part of my Patreon package, we really focus on roster construction and how to go about building lineups. We do cover cash games, and I talk about a lot, where the optimal cash game build is. We talk about that. And then we talk about building those plus EV lineups in tournaments, ways to get different, and making sure, again, you're building those plus EV lineups in large field tournaments. So if you guys are interested in that, again, Patreon linked down below. But outside of Jalen Hurts, you got A.J. Brown at 10.6K, Devontae Smith at 9K. Don't have any super strong takes on either of these guys. I think they're both good spend-ups if you can afford them. They're going to play basically the entire game. If you take a look at the snaps last week, you had, let's see, where is it? Devontae Smith played 65 of the 66 snaps, and where is A.J. Brown? A.J. Brown played 60 of the 66 snaps. So both have a pretty high ceiling. They're both good plays. I would say if I had this, if you made me pick between the 3 spend-up wide receivers in the slate with Brown, Smith, and Justin Jefferson, I am going to give the edge to Justin Jefferson. But Brown and Smith definitely have somewhat similar ceiling, I would say, to Justin Jefferson. So the 2 main receivers here for the Eagles, I think both solid options. Gainwell, this is really important. This is going to change the whole slate if he does not play. So going into week 1, I got ripped on a ton for saying that Kenneth Gainwell is going to be the RB1. Right? If you can go back and look at the comments, I said, hey, I like Kenny Gainwell. If you look at the preseason data and you just kind of can read the tea leaves, he's going to be the RB1. I got a lot of hate for that. Oh, it's going to be Penny. It's going to be DeAndre Swift. Very clearly Kenny Gainwell. How about that, huh? But he's injured, and he might not play. So take a look at the snap data last week. Kenny Gainwell played a majority of the game, 41 of the 66 snaps. He's banged up. If Kenny Gainwell is good to go, I think he's a fine option. Now, the Eagles did say they do want to get the ball a bit more to DeAndre Swift, who barely had any touches in week 1. So if Gainwell does not play, here's what I think will happen. I think Swift most likely gets the start and will be massive chalk. But I do think you're going to see Dusty, Boston Scott, and Rashad Penny mix in. Rashad Penny was inactive, but if Gainwell's out, Penny will most likely be active. And then I think those 3 will be the backs for week 2. So very important news to monitor with the status of Kenny Gainwell. If Gainwell plays, I think he's a fine option at the price point. Is involved in the passing game, was the clear RB1. If he misses, Swift, I think, becomes one of the best values on the board. Might be a bit overowned, and I do think guys like Penny and Scott would be viable pivots off of chalk DeAndre Swift. Again, he would definitely be chalk if Gainwell misses. But with the Eagles, and we've seen this throughout the years, the running backs, like they can kind of just like switch it up week to week. So I do think, again, some of these value running backs we can definitely look to. Swift would be the chalk if Gainwell misses. And then Dallas Goedert, 5.8K, did not have a catch, 1 target. Again, what did Sirianni say? We can't go a game without getting Goddard the football. I think they're going to try to really force feed Goddard in week 2. The good thing about Dallas Goedert too is you're getting him at a pretty nice discount off of the top receivers, and he's basically going to play most of the game too. He played 61 of the 66 snaps, so I really like Dallas Goedert here. I think he's going to be popular, but it's for good reason. I think he's one of the best plays in the mid-range. Very, very high in Dallas Goedert. I do like the Eagles D too, at 4.4. And this will be an ownership thing for what I want to do with the Eagles D. And again, ownership projection's not out. If the Eagles D is going to be like 30, 35% owned, I'm going to fade. And we've seen it back-to-back showdowns now where the defenses have absolutely smashed. And, you know, a lot of the field usually like kind of looks at what happens and, they assume it's going to happen again. So with the defense is a high variance position. But again, what I want to do with the Eagles D in my tournament lineups is going to depend on where their ownership projection comes in at. If they're going to be relatively low owned, the Eagles D, I'm going to be much higher on them. If they're going to be chalk, I am definitely going to fade. So what I do, again, with the Eagles defense in tournaments depends on ownership projections. Same thing, Elliott, safe play. He's going to be more pop. If you're going to pick between a kicker, Elliott's going to be much more popular than the Vikings kicker. Personally, if I was going to play a kicker in tournaments, I think I'd rather go to the Vikings kicker. Like, for example, Zerline. Let me see if I can find the ownership. So I like, usually, unless the kicker is like a huge dog, I prefer playing the lower owned kicker if I'm going to play one in tournaments, just because picking fantasy score is kind of random, right? It just is. So I'm very curious of what was. Okay, yeah. So Bass, right? Bass was 22% in this tournament, and Zerline was 13%. They're basically the same play. So you might not think that's a huge difference. It's pretty big. So I'm always going to give the edge to the lower owned kicker in GPPs. So if I was to, I do think that Elliott's a bit safer. Again, the Eagles are favored by 7, but I do think if I'm going to play a kicker, I actually would probably lean towards the Vikings kicker. Swift. So if Gainwell plays, I still think Swift is in play. He only played 19 of the 66 snaps. But if Gainwell misses, then Swift becomes a really, really good value. So we'll monitor the status there, Gainwell. I do think Quez Watkins is another interesting value play. Now, we've seen this last couple of years. He's getting a lot of opportunities, but not really doing a ton with them. So last game, he played 52 of the 66 snaps and ran 33 routes. So he's cheap. He's going to be out there for majority of the game. I think he's a decent value play. I don't think you're going to expect a ton from him, but you don't need a lot from him at the salary, and he's going to have the opportunity. So Watkins, I think, is a solid value. Boston Scott, again, was not out there for a lot of time. He played, where is it? I should filter this, so it's probably easier. He played 8 of the 66 snaps. I actually think if there's no Gainwell, I would actually rather play Rashad Penny over Boston Scott for cheaper. So yeah, give me Penny over Scott if there's no Kenny Gainwell. And then Olamide Zaccheaus was the very clear wide receiver 4. He played 7 of the 66 snaps, where again, Watkins played 52. So I have a pretty tough time getting to Zaccheaus unless we get some sort of news that he's now jumped ahead of Quez Watkins in the depth chart or something. The tight end 2 was Jack Stahl. He's $200. He played 13 snaps, ran 5 routes. I guess in a Millie Maker type format like this one, you can consider him. But that's really it, I think. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to mention for the Eagles. So the big news, as we talked about a few times, is Gainwell. That's going to change the whole slate for Thursday Night Football. So keep an eye on it. Again, Tuesday, he missed the practice. Wednesday practice is going to be pretty important for whether or not I think he'll be able to give it a go or not. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for the video. If you do enjoy the DFS content, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll have another video up talking some player props I like probably tomorrow for this game. So make sure to check that one out as well. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you guys all in the next one.